mean, or like,
I think one difference also, and maybe this is what a thing like we hope that this kind of series is that I think this film and your film were made for a community, in a way, from that community. And there was a sense that that in itself had value. So there wasn't yet this idea of what an independent filmmaker would become. You were actually becoming, and again, I don't want this all to be a nostalgia trip, so hopefully we can talk about...
Yeah, we're still young.
And just in general, I think that nostalgia is not maybe the interesting part, but I do think that there was a sense that the event was the film itself for the audience that arrived for it.
Yeah, I think so, and I think also, really when tackling a subject matter like this, like David, a lot of people really knew him not as this guy, but as the guy who was angry, as the guy who fought against the government to get his work put back up. Where was the show pulled from? There was a Fire in the Belly. It was pulled from
Hide and Seek show in
from
DC.
the Hide and Seek show. At the Whitney.
At the National Gallery.
Oh, the National Gallery. And then was programmed, again because there were ants crawling over a crucifix, and that sounds so funny now. To have work, pulled out because of that, and
this only happened last year.
That was last year.
It happened again.
Oh, crap.
Just so you know, in 2010. In 2010,
Yikes.
his work was pulled from the Smithsonian.
I'm done.
No.
But I think that he was making a film about a kind of a hero of the time, and yet that film had none of his artwork in it, had none of his it had his writing, but it didn't have that angry, that voice that maybe, it was really kind of, as I said, it was like the silent spaces between, and that's a really experimental film to make.
But it did have the violence, which I think is something that films are frightened of in a way, and I thought that was what...
Had the multiple blows.
There was a lot of violence in the culture.
Yeah, and I think that what was interesting to me was, like you were saying, I was going, okay, is this going to connect or at some point? But then I was sort of feeling like that even though there was all this violence, that it still felt like this very naturalistic, realistic portrait. It could be anybody. If you had not said to me it was David Wojnarowicz, and you looked at it as a film outside of that, you would just see a story that felt very familiar, that felt very common, very American, So that was sort of the perspective that I sort of found most interesting, that there was a universality to it too.
It was really interesting and daring that I think Steve chose this particular way of telling the story. And I don't know if there were other ways that were, it's a question for you, Craig. Were there other scripts or other ways, or did you guys just say, we support your script? And Steve, by the way, is British, so he wasn't, I think he came to the U.S. to do this film.
Well, first off, the main criticism was that it wasn't angry. It wasn't David Wojnarowicz as much as people wanted him to be.
Right, because that's the persona everyone knew.
Criticism, but the script was all scenes, and then it was cut together in the during the editing stage. Yeah. So it was always postcards or segments or pieces from his life.
Yeah, I just thought it was. I just watching it again. I just thought it really. I just have such a love and respect for experimental film, and I had forgotten, and I just was really struck with how beautiful and how what a wonderful job Ellen did, and just I don't know, again, she did a beautiful job. It's because they had 2 lights, put the lights of the truck on it, I would imagine.
And she later went on to shoot things like Eternal Sunshine and things like that, right?
Oh yeah.
A lot of great stuff.
Yeah. She did Swoon, which she won the award for, and at that time, and at that time she was doing. It was just a family, right? It was Marlene was doing all the titles. Marlene McCarty, who's been partners with Christine Vachon for years, did all the title sequences up until she even did Safety of Objects for me, and but it was just fun to see the bureau work and to see Therese Deprez behind the bar in all of her 6 feet plus glory, who was just a wonderful, amazing designer, and now does just ginormous movies, and but there were a lot of people who just careers. It's just funny where everybody started and where everyone went to after.
Are there questions from the audience or comments?
Yeah. You said that you feel like there's a community of
I mean that, well, I mean, my policy has always been to support each other. That I truly believe in many different communities. And I definitely believe in filmmaking, like in us supporting each other as filmmakers and producers. And most recently, as we pointed out, a friend of mine from, you know, like we hadn't spoken in, I don't know, Stacey, like what, 10 years or something like that. And she sent me a script, and I will read people's scripts and I will give them notes. And I've done that with a lot of my friends. And I think that that's, you know, it's like,
you give good notes. I've gotten notes from
yeah,
you.
you have to. Yes,
they're good, long, involved, and passionate notes.
You're like, I wish they were shorter.
No,
but
they're very good.
You know, so it's like how I got involved with being the producer on Concussion, which is the film that we're posting on now, because, you know, like it's a film I wanted to see this film out in the world. I want to see it be successful. I want you guys to see this film. It's why, you know, like whatever small amount I gave to, you know, Ira for his when he was on Kickstarter, and I can't like stress enough how much I think we should support each other, and however that is, you know, if it's you who your friend wants you to read their script or see a cut of their movie, which P.S. a number of these people in this room I've asked already to like please come and see some screenings that we're going to have, because that's again it's an easy thing, but we help sustain each other's career, and I think that that's kind of a thing that's happened in New York for years. And
do you feel like when you set out in this time to make movies, how would you describe it as different than you expected, and how would you describe it maybe as the same, or what? Tell me a little bit about it, that feeling of support and whether you've felt benefited.